Alright, I have finally hit my first 100 subscribers. Woo! I love it! Thank you all for subscribing, liking, commenting all the videos. At least let me know that at least some of you are watching my content. So thank you all for subscribing. I'm going to try to continue to put out some decent content for you all. And stay tuned for a little bit more coming at you as I get ready to calibrate my backpack sprayer. And I clean up this mess. What is up, YouTube? It has been a little bit since I did an actual video outside because it's been so cold outside. It's about 64 degrees out right now, so we got a little bit of a warm snap. So that means I can do a couple things. One, got my barbecue running next to me, so I can get some chicken wings going for the Super Bowl party tonight. And also, my Strom backpack sprayer, I can finally get out and play with it. I haven't had a chance to calibrate it, see how it sprays yet, other than Christmas Day, going out, still my PJs, spraying water on my patio to see how it sprayed out, make sure it worked. But I haven't actually got to spray it down and kind of calibrate to see how much water it puts out per minute. So I want to go through and figure that out. So this thing has two different settings on it. It's got a low pressure and a high pressure, and I've got my GCI spray nozzle on here. So I want to try to play around with both settings, just figure out how much water I put out per minute. So I've got a small bucket here that measures out to 1 gallon. So what I'm going to do is turn this on. I'll do both settings. I've got about a gallon and a half of water in here, and I want to spray in here. I'm going to time it out to about 30 seconds, and then just multiply it by 2, so it'll tell me roughly per minute how much water I'm putting out. And so I'll do that between the low pressure and the high pressure, so I can kind of adjust accordingly. Because I know my chafing hose and sprayer that I had been using to apply my humic acid and the sea kelp, I had to move pretty quick with that. I was putting it down at roughly 2 ounces per 1,000 square foot with the humic acid and sea kelp mixed in. So I set my chafing hose and sprayer to the 2 tablespoons, and I had to move pretty quick. I almost had to kind of move what I would call the I gotta poop walk. So I had to move really quick to make sure that I wasn't over applying. So I'm going to get started on this one. I'm going to spray it out, use my phone, measure it out, and see roughly how quick this water comes out, and adjust from there. Alright, so the wife vacuuming kind of drowned out when I was trying to record, so I decided to just kind of record over top of this. So you've got 2 settings. You have a high pressure, that is your single line at the top switch, and your low pressure is your bottom 2 lines on the bottom switch. So I'm recording this out, timing it out with the high pressure setting. I've got my bucket, I've got my phone that I'm going to time out 30 seconds with. So part of the problem I had when I was doing this, one, obviously trying to get the nozzle off the sprayer, is when I'm spraying into the bucket, water was kind of spraying around everywhere because of the pressure behind it. So I kind of did a couple different angles to try to keep the water from spraying out of the bucket so I can have the best accurate measurement possible. But I still had quite a bit of water spraying around everywhere, but it's not like I lost a significant amount of water where it would really throw off my numbers if I'm trying to accurately walk out a yard and figure out how many ounces per 1,000. So after I hit the 30 seconds here, I got a little confused because it was like 40 something else, like 42 ounces that it hit. So that puts me at roughly like 85 ounces per 1,000 or per minute. So trying to figure out how to get that bumped down to 32 or 64 per minute kind of threw me off. So now what I want to do is, I think I have enough water in here still, so now I'm going to flip it over to my low pressure setting and figure out how much I get on the low pressure. So I'm going to reset my watch here. And now, at the low pressure, Alright, so I hit, in 30 seconds I hit 32 ounces of water. That would mean in 1 minute I'm putting out about 64 ounces of water. That's a little bit easier to manage in nice round numbers versus 85 ounces of water in a minute. With that, I did do a little bit of math. So if I was to use the high pressure settings and go with that, and I wanted to apply at 64 ounces of water per 1,000 square foot, that would mean I need to cover in 45 seconds 1,000 square foot, because 85 ounces divided by 60 is roughly 1.4, and if I wanted to cover that 1,000 square foot, you start doing the math on that. 60 divided by 1.4 is roughly about 45 seconds. So that's a lot of area to cover in a minute. I was already at like 1,000 square foot per minute with the hose end sprayer, and like I said, I was kind of doing the I got a poop walk, moving really quick. So doing it in 45 seconds might be even quicker. It might help that there is an 8-foot wide spray pattern on it, so I will just have to now go out, mark off a 1,000 square foot area, and then try to cover that area in either 45 seconds on the high pressure setting, or cover it out in 1 minute with the low pressure setting. So I got to get out, and I'm going to measure some of my area off and see what I can do. Alright, so got my sprayer ready. I've got 2.5 gallons of water in the back. What I've done is marked out a spot over here. I found a crack that I kind of started my measurement at. Got another spot down here where I kind of marked off with a stick. So the plan is I want to get roughly 1,000 square foot of coverage. What I did, and this spray's at 8 foot wide supposedly. So with that, if I do an 8 foot wide spray pattern, and I just did a single line to get 1,000 square foot, that would put me at roughly 125 feet in a straight line. I don't want to do just a straight line because I want to stop, turn around, and come back. So instead, what I did is cut that down to half of that, which is 62.5 feet, and that'll allow me to go down, turn around, and come back, and that'll still give me 1,000 square foot, but it's two 62.5 foot runs instead of a single 125 foot. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the low pressure, and that should give me 1 minute to knock off 64 ounces. So I'm going to see what I do. So that should bring me right around about 2 gallons left in the tank, and I will go from there and kind of adjust my walking speed from there. Down and back was 32 seconds, so I'm about I'm really far off. And as I was spraying, I was completely getting sprayed in the face with water. So if that's chemical that was in there, I would have been wearing a lot of it right now. So that's no good. So I might have to adjust accordingly. When I first started spraying, I was kind of up a little bit high, and it really started spraying back in my face. I lowered it down a little bit, and it seemed to help some, but it was, as you can see, even all over the boom here. It's on my phone and everything, so it's a tad bit windy. So I may have to take that into consideration if I'm going to use this sprayer to make sure that there's absolutely zero wind when I go to apply this. So I'm going to try to do another pass here. Apparently I might be able to walk quite a bit slower, or I guess at this point I can just crank up the pressure and go to the high pressure and walk slightly slower and get the 1,000 square foot done in 45 seconds. So I'm going to Well, I'm going to try that, because otherwise I feel like I'm going to be walking like a snail and I'll be out here all day trying to spray 1,000 foot. I'm on high pressure now. Let's try this again. Well, so I'm still working on trying to calibrate this thing. Really having to slow myself down. However, since I'm getting soaked, maybe there's some good graces. So USPS just showed up and dropped off those guys to me. So this is the tingly boots. So got my pants tucked in those, so maybe I'll be able to keep myself a little bit drier. So these are actual applicator boots. Seeing as how much this thing sprays out, I might need it. So I'm going to keep messing around with this a little bit more. I got another gallon of water in here, so it should essentially give me a couple passes of up and down. So I'll try it a couple more times, really slow myself down and see what I can do now. Alright, so got my timing down a little bit better. The last pass I just did, I hit right at 45 seconds. In my figuring with my ounces per 1,000 square foot, I got that pretty much nailed right on the money, because right as I came across the line over here to hit my 45-second mark, I ran out of water. So I think I got that dialed in pretty good there. So I have to slow my pace down really slow. I have to think, I guess, as if I am walking behind my 2 or 3 year old, where they're walking pretty slow. If I walk that pace, where if I'm like walking behind them, that'd probably be about the pace I need to follow. So I think that's pretty decent. So
Alright, so at this point it got really windy out and you could hardly even hear me. So here I'll just kind of recap what I was saying right here. So everything worked fairly well. I think the reason why I was able to slow myself down so much comparing to the Chapin hose end sprayer, even though the Chapin is putting out a gallon per minute, the spray path is a lot more narrow. So that's why I had to really keep moving fast to get that 1,000 square foot actual coverage in a minute, versus this spray nozzle, it sprays 8 foot wide. So I do 2 passes at 62 feet in 45 seconds. I've got 1,000 square foot covered, and I was walking extremely slow doing it. So I was able to cover essentially twice the coverage in one pass, as opposed to a 4 foot wide path, spraying it down 4 foot wide, come back up, spraying 4 foot. So essentially 4 passes at 4 foot instead of 2 passes at 8 foot. So I was able to slow myself down a lot. Now with that, so I talked to some of the other guys about this in the Discord. So I think this sprayer nozzle is essentially meant to spray at 32 ounces per 1,000 square foot. My perspective, I'm not that comfortable with spraying only a quarter gallon of water per 1,000 square foot with product in it. Especially when, I read a lot of the labels, so a lot of the chemicals even say to spray at, 1 gallon of water per 1,000 square foot. Some of it is even more than that. So to spray at only 32 ounces, it kind of makes me a little nervous. And honestly, if you're nervous with something, especially when it comes to chemicals, don't do it. Don't, if you're not a applicator or DIY or pro or whatever, if you're not comfortable with doing something, don't do it, because ultimately if you're not comfortable doing something, you might screw up and cause some issues. So I'm going to hold back, and I will dial it back to that 64 ounces that I'm a little bit more comfortable with. But it's still going to fall on the label. If the label tells me to do 1 gallon, then I'm going to do a gallon. So that just means I'm going to have to maybe do a double pass or just walk really slow, or ultimately I might have to take that sprayer nozzle off and use one of the other sprayer nozzles, because it does come with a couple of different ones. There's an edger one that come with the GCI nozzle, and then there's a couple of them that came specifically for the Strom, which basically are just kind of like pressure washer nozzles. You have your 0 degree, 30 degree, 40 degree, whatever. So might be able to swap over to some of those. I don't know. But that's something I have to play with. So I didn't try anything else. I'm not going to use any humic or sea kelp in there yet, because I want to get a little bit more comfortable. Plus the yard is still just so sopping wet that I don't want to go through there trying to charge through there to try to spray stuff down. So, but with that, I'll call that for the week. As always, thank you all for liking and subscribing, and thank you again for the 100 subscriber mark. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.